delighted that you turned out for this opportunity, and to maximize time for our Q&A, Adam and I will just keep our comments brief, and then we will turn it over to our facilitators. And that will be our Chief Diversity Officer, Robbie Rautenberg, and with assistance from SA Officer Bailey Chapin.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I will keep my comments brief, I promise, but I have some things I want to share and also want to give you an idea of the format today. So first of all, I will just say from the get-go, this conversation was organized in recognition that we've had a pretty rough start to spring 2020. I think we can all agree on that, right? My colleagues and I know this. Adam and I meet regularly. He and his colleagues on the SA executive know this. And so we decided it would be timely to organize this event, really just to provide an opportunity for some information sharing and discussion on topics of mutual interest. We are very aware that some of these issues that have come up have had negative impacts on all of you. My colleagues and I are well aware of that, and we're sorry for that. We don't want to, there have been a number of things that have happened where we don't want to be in this space either, but know that we're working hard to make sure that we mitigate those negative impacts on you. And I'm hoping through conversation today we can get a better sense of what your concerns are, and you can also understand what we're working to do to ensure that we've got a positive learning environment for everyone. Adam and I also appreciate that a number of you did take the opportunity to submit in advance some topics that you had that are of interest. And I won't go through all of them, but I'll just acknowledge some of those major themes are included Milne Library, not shockingly, power outages on campus, the Twitter matter, snow and ice removal on campus, and there were others, and so we look forward to your conversation and discussion of those. And I just want to say again how much I appreciate the partnership with SA. Adam and his colleagues are fantastic student leaders, and appreciate his willingness to partner on this, and we'll be asking you some questions today, including, is this something we should continue going forward? We have here today our respective leadership teams, and so I will briefly introduce our cabinet members. We have other members of the administration here. I won't go through all of them in the interest of time, but I do want to introduce the cabinet members who are present, and then I'll ask Adam to acknowledge the SA officers. And so the cabinet members who are here include our VP for Finance and Administration, Julie Bueller, over here. Our Interim Chief Communications and Marketing Officer, David Irwin, and David is in the back there. We also have our Senior Associate to the President, Wendy Kinney, and Wendy, I believe, moved over there. We also have our Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Stacy Robertson, and Stacy is outside of the room. And of course, we have our Chief Diversity Officer, from whom you'll be hearing in just a minute, Robbie Rautenberg. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Adam so you can acknowledge your peer leaders who are here in the room.
Sure, thank you, President Battles. We have Mary Margaret Dwyer over here, Director of Public Relations. We have Caitlin Bertleff, Vice President with Statement. We have Gretchen Ayuk, Director of Business Administration. And I think we have Leah Sherman here, Director of Student Programming. Emily Matura, Assistant Director for Student Affairs. And Bailey Chapin, Director of Interresidence Affairs as well.
All right, well, thank you for that. I will just conclude by outlining our format so that you know how we've organized. We are scheduled to go for 1 hour, 4:30 to 5:30. CDO Rautenberg will facilitate questions from students off the floor with assistance from Bailey. Please do wait till a mic gets to you so we can all hear the question and the responses. We also, in talking about this together, we realized that we've got a rare opportunity for some focused student feedback. And so at the end of the program, we'd like to garner your wisdom, and you'll be asked to provide some responses, discuss at your table responses to a couple of questions so that we will have the benefit of your thoughts going forward. You'll also find at your table some index cards that are available for written questions and comments if you don't wish to say them publicly, perhaps. And so I've got two colleagues in the room, I believe Teresa Sexton and Julie O's, who will be glad to collect those from you. There are also notepads at each table. We would invite you, because we do want to garner the benefit of all the wisdom in this room and the feedback, please identify a scribe for notes of your table conversations that will come toward the end. So I will thank you all, and maybe I can also acknowledge, I believe this is being live streamed, and I think Robbie will speak more about that, but I just want folks to know about that from the get-go, so that's not a surprise. So, Adam, was there anything else you'd like to add at this point?
Sure, absolutely. I want to take a second to quickly acknowledge the 200 students in the room. Please give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. It's very reassuring to see such a great turnout from the student body, and it's also very telling to see how we're doing as an institution to see all of you here today. I think the student body right now feels frustrated, concerned, and possibly even angry at the moment. And I think, And I think that today is the first step, or a great step, for the Student Association to hear your concerns. We hear you. We're trying to find better ways to hear you and better ways to represent you at the moment. And so please take today as an opportunity to, of course, be respectful, be civil, but be open about the concerns you feel, and you'll acknowledge them and explain them and communicate them effectively. So with that, thank you all so much for being here. I greatly appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Adam. And I will now, without further ado, I think we're going to turn it over to Robbie and Bailey, and yeah, they'll take it on from here. So thank you.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks. As mentioned, as introduced, my name is Robbie Rautenberg. I'm happy to be here to help facilitate this conversation. It does feel like a really important opportunity for this coming together, and I commend President Battles and the SA leadership for making this happen. I also want to echo the appreciation for the 200 plus, perhaps, students who are in the room. I think it's a really important opportunity that you have clearly taken advantage of to ask the questions that you have. You have important questions, and that's why we have collectively created this opportunity to hopefully give you answers to the questions that you want answers to. You want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I know I was introduced, but I'm Bailey Chapin. I'm the SA Director of Inter-Residence Affairs. Happy to be here.
And it was also mentioned, but I just want to emphasize the fact that since this is live streamed, I want to make sure none of you are surprised when, if you do ask a question, that it will be shared outside of the room. I want to make sure that that's a shared knowledge. If there is a question that you do want to ask, but you don't want to ask it publicly like this, the index cards are a great way to do that. You can ask questions on the index cards, and we'll come around and collect them. And the other thing I want to make available to you is, let's say you don't get a chance to have your question asked in this amount of time, or you don't want to publicly or on an index card connect with a member of the administration afterwards. We will make sure that we connect you with the right person so you still get the answer to your question. I want to assure that. Time is never our friend, and so you always will have more time. With that, I think we're going to open up the floor. This is to the students. What questions do you have? And I'll start over here.
Hi. So this question is directed to President Battles. With all due respect, why is this the first time that your administration has organized something like this with Student Association? I think it's been very overlong. It's been due for a long time. So what's up?
So an important question, really, I think, recognizing the value of events like this. Why hasn't it happened?
Well, thanks for that question, and we're very open to doing this going forward. What we've done in the past, I meet with Adam regularly, at least monthly, and I have a standing request of of SA, student organization, or student association rather, for me to come and meet with that group. And I generally, I've never turned them down. I ask to be able to speak to that group at least once a semester, and generally that's how it's worked. Frankly, this had never been something that had been on our radar screens, and so in our meeting, our one-on-one meeting, something that came up between Adam and me, and we decided it was a good idea. And we've already talked about whether or not this would be good going forward. On your tables, and we're not quite there yet, but you'll see that one of the questions we decided to pose is this something you'd like going forward or not? So we'll value your wisdom and feedback on that, but we're very open to doing it.
Awesome. Right before I speak, congrats to Katie Bertliff, who did a lot to put this together. I think we did just secondly, this is regarding the blackout on North Side. I'm not sure who this should be directed to, so I'm just going to say it generally. I never recall hearing the affirmative cause as to what happened with the blackout, and I never heard a confirmed solution to that issue. And I'm pretty sure that in the emails that we got most recently, we heard that the issue had not been resolved, but they turned back on the power because it had taken so long to fix it. So I don't know who I could ask that question to.
That's right. And for you all with questions to know, I'll figure out who the right person is so that you don't have to carry that burden. And for this question, I think the best person is going to be Vice President Dealer.
Great.
Thank you. I'm sorry that you're having to hear this here. I want to acknowledge as well that I am very sorry that you have had frustrations in the power outage and also with the library. Facilities does report to me. Obviously, we have some work to do on communications. Let me walk you through, and I got to tell you this, I want to hear from you what would work better. I have clearly heard you want more timely messaging. That I can do. And I will commit to that. I need to also know how to communicate to you. What mechanisms do you want? I don't think there's a silver bullet, but if you can give me multiple ideas, we will pursue that. Now let me talk to you about what happened. Power went out in an unplanned way, as you all know. It was after my staff, we have people who work 24 hours here in the department that takes care of that. We found out right away that it was not in the region, it was on our campus, and it affected part of our campus. It turned out to be an equipment failure. We have replaced that piece of equipment. We actually do how we handle emergencies. The very first thing we do is we look at safety. And that safety is first focused on student safety, but also on community safety. So that includes my workers, who often have to go out in the cold and the ice and go into the manholes and work with electrical issues where they're not sure what the problem is. It took us a little bit longer because they actually have to don special suits. Sometimes we need to bring in some consultants, as we did in this case, for their own safety. We don't want anyone getting hurt. It took us a while to figure out what this one was. It was an unusual type of break of equipment. We got the power up the first time we put in a solution. Because we want to get the service back as quick as possible, especially when it's affecting hot water and your ability to charge devices and heat. So we got the power up quickly, and then we go into a debrief session after that to say what would reduce the risk of another outage. When we went through that process with our vendor, when we had more time to actually sit back, they made some recommendations to us, and that's why we did that second round. That was the planned round where we went in and we actually replaced some additional components to reduce risk of it going out again. And that took longer than we thought, and we also saw that there were some communication breakdowns in our speed and flow of how we get data out. And we have learned that. I will tell you, and I'm an alum of the school, I want the school to be awesome forever. I am committed to doing this right. We have a full debrief plan where we're going to go through and we're going to look at everything that got in our way, and we're going to make that better. I also would love to have some student advisory groups. Other places I've worked, I've been in higher ed for 31 years. I love having student advisory groups where they can advise us on things like how to do communications over time. So that's what happened. We do have some aged equipment. I read about that. You know, we are an aged campus, and we do have more aged equipment, so I cannot stand here and promise you you'll never have another outage. But I can tell you we have good people who are working really hard to make sure that they reduce the risk as much as they can. What you didn't get to see that I got to see is a group of dedicated employees that worked beyond a 24-hour shift. And the students heard about the cots we brought in for the students, but we actually had to have some of our staff sleep for an hour because I did not want them getting into cars after they came in from the cold and wet that they were working in a high voltage area. So I just want to say, you know, some people are talking bad about some of these folks. These folks have bent over backwards. You may never know their name, but you know, I worry about you and I worry about them. So very sorry, and let's do better together.
Yeah, so in regards to like the communication, I feel like when it came to like the power outage, it was just like nobody in the planned power outage, like we didn't get anything saying that it wasn't going to start at 9. It was starting at 9 to 5, and then it didn't start till 2. And we get that like there was problems, but literally nobody knew when it was going to start. People woke up before 9 to take showers, and then literally was just like, okay, the power's still on, what's going on? And then people came back from classes, people didn't come back to their dorms until 5, and it was like, oh wait, the power's actually still off. What's going on? The thing is that the communication is terrible because I had food that spoiled twice because of this, literally because I bought food right after, and then literally, again, oh, there's a planned power outage. And the same thing with, I feel like people with the library, with communication. First, it was before finals week is going to be up, and then the semester, and then 2025, and I feel like we just need more constant information coming through, where like we could have like, if like, especially like when you were talking about the workers, if we had emails being like, the workers are working very hard, you know, like we don't want them to get sick, we're sorry that this is happening. There was no mention of workers, there was no mention of all of that, because it makes us feel bad. It makes us feel bad that we're complaining about all these people, and you know, like we just, like I feel like there needs to be more constant communication, period, because I feel like suddenly, all of a sudden we got, okay, the library is gonna be closed for 5+ years. And we're like, if we were like constantly getting, okay, the library might be taking longer than it is than a semester, before literally just dropping 5 years, I feel like people would have been a little bit like still upset, but you know, we just need more communication, period, like in general.
A couple things, and I want to figure out who to direct your comments to. One thing is, one of those questions that we're going to be asking you all to help us figure out is about communication. I think we're all on the same page that we need to do communication better. And so we are going to lean on you all to help us figure out what are the most effective ways to get that communication out. And I think one of the people who should comment on your comment is probably our Chief Communication and Marketing Officer. And I'm wondering if you also are asking for clarity on the timing of when the power turned off and when it turned on. Are you interested in that as well? Yeah. So then I'll toss it first to Vice President Bueller, because she's closer to me, to clarify the timing piece. And then I'm going to head back about the communication piece.
Yeah, so this is what happened with the power. So my employees were trying to be really sensitive to not cutting the power because they had been talking to students and they knew how bad it was to have the power turned off. So they were actually working from the time we gave you, but they didn't, even though they were working on it, there's a part they can do without turning the power off. So they were actually like in the manholes working, but they didn't cut the power off yet. And they weren't exactly sure what time they were going to get to the step where they could turn off the power. And we should have communicated that. You know, in hindsight, it's like, why didn't we think to communicate that at that time? So I'm really hearing you on that. And then when it came time for it to come back on, we were working on a part we don't normally work on. So think of it like a car, and it's got some aged parts. And we had several vendors advising us, because this is not the normal thing that we do. And what honestly happened was the vendor kept saying, in a half hour we'll be up. In a half hour we'll be up. So we were still in the window. We're like, well, in a half hour we'll be fine. Then we knew we were going to slip a little bit. And so we were trying to get notices out about that. And we had an issue with a message that was supposed to go out that didn't go out. And we're going to fix that. There was a flow issue that happened on that. But that's what happened. And then by the time we actually got the note drafted, and which is also an issue, we need to have a playbook, because we were writing them on the fly. And if you paid attention to the recent outage we had in the internet in the area, they've got those templates written. So we have some work to do on that. But that's what happened. We were trying to get it up, and we were getting reports, and we probably should have said it will be up in the evening. We probably should not have given you a time. But again, we will learn that next time. We had worked with a lot of engineers. They love to be precise, but this is not a precise situation. Okay? But thank you for telling me that, because I will take that in.
I'm gonna you got this.
Yeah, thanks. Julie answered a lot of what I was going to say, which is right on the mark. There's a lot of moving parts when you're dealing with a crisis like this. And we have a tendency, there's a conflict. We want to get information out fast, but we want to get information out that's accurate. And in this case, when you had so many things happening very quickly, it was very difficult to make sure that you got accurate information out. We've learned from that. I think we've learned also that sometimes information can go out from more than just one person. Like I was sort of coordinating that, but there needs to be some other individuals with the power to send information out who has the accurate information. That's part of what Julie, I think, was referring to when we debrief and find out what are the channels, what are the instruments that you like to get information from. Is it social media? Is it email? Is it loudspeakers driving down the car? We need to know what those channels are, so we can take advantage of all those.
Thank you. Bailey, who do you want to go to next?
Hi, my name is Grace Piscani, and I am a freshman here at SUNY Geneseo. This past Tuesday, due to complaints and urgent messages I heard from all of my friends saying that they were considering transferring from SUNY Geneseo because they thought that my friends felt that their voices were not being heard, not only in the student association as well as by administration. Over the last 48 hours, this petition has earned over 2,000 signatures, comprising about 40% of our on-campus living. This petition is representative of a large group of students that feel that their voices are not being heard. We understand that these are very complex issues. We understand that there are certain things that our administration doesn't let us know about. So why don't going forward, instead of us being cut out of these situations, we are invited to them? All we want is to go to a college where we feel that our voices are heard and that our education matters.
Thank you for that comment, and I commend you and others who have been a part of it for such a successful organizing campaign. Truthfully, to get 2,000 signatures is really impressive, and I commend you for that. I'm wondering if there's anybody you're hoping comments on that, or if you just wanted that to be said in the room. Is there a question associated with that?
Yes, I am asking the administration team as well as the main players in the student association how they intend on making this campus somewhere where every single student feels like their voices can be heard. Okay. Thank you.
I'm not sure who to send that one to. Is there someone from Student Association who wants to take that first? Yeah, and I'll think about who from the administration side.
Thank you for your question. That's absolutely fair. I think right now, the Student Association, we're thinking about this as well, is how can we better represent the student body? And I think that today is our first step at doing that a little more effectively. We hear your concerns. Student voices matter. Your voices matter. And 2,000 signatures on petition is incredibly impressive. And I think right now, yeah, absolutely. That's just a round of applause, actually. It's 2,000 signatures. Right now, the Student Association, we have different things in place. We have the Student Senate, which is ran by the Vice President, Caitlin Bertleff over there. And that entire organization is dedicated to hearing student concerns, drafting policy, drafting proposals, and sending that on to the administration to consider. And so right now, the Student Association, we understand where you're coming from. We're students too. We're frustrated with the library, we're frustrated with the lack of communication, and we're working on it. We're trying to be better. And so today is our step in acknowledging that and giving you all the opportunity to voice your concerns effectively. So I'm sorry you're frustrated, and we recognize you're frustrated, and we're trying to be better about it. So thank you for that, I greatly appreciate it.
Well, and I just want to say, we hear your frustration. We do try to put opportunities out there to connect with the students, and we've tried a lot of different things. I know personally, I've done everything from fireside chats to dinner in the residence halls, where I encountered some students last night, to going to the essay meetings regularly, meeting with the essay leadership. But we're very open, and part of the what we'll culminate with today is asking you that question about communication mechanisms, because we do value our students here. It's one of the reasons that I found this opportunity so appealing, is that this is a very special community, and we've gone through a rough patch. We absolutely have, but know that the administration and certainly our student association leadership want to engage our students and have an active, vibrant flow of communication so that we can really realize our potential.
If I can add just a quick comment on the tail end of that, I think the goal that you expressed is one that is shared. The challenge is the method. And if we can come together, and it's part of that discussion that'll happen at the tables, and it's part of conversation that can happen after today too, I think we have to figure out what the methods are that will allow us to be successful at reaching what I really think is a shared goal. If I can just add that. All right, Bailey, where are we going? Where is Bailey?
Over here.
There's like the voice. Thanks.
Hi. I do understand that there's a lot of major concerns right now, and this might not apply to everyone here, but this is the only opportunity that some of us think that people will listen to us. The arts departments here are really struggling. I'm a senior leaving in May, and I've been here for 4 years, and right now we are in desperate need of help. With building shifts and professors leaving and space being ruined, we are afraid that we'll be reduced to nothing soon. Is there any initiative, since I'm unaware of any, that you're going to take to save the arts? Because recently we've lost performance spaces, we've lost classes, we have broken down equipment, we have people who don't even know what we're doing around here because we have no support. I just want to know if there's anything you're going to do to help, because we seem to be a department that everyone forgets about, and we're still here and we're trying our best, but no one's here to listen to us.
Thank you for asking an important question, and this is the space to ask any questions, so I don't want any of you to feel like this isn't the space for it. I'm going to pass the mic to our Vice Provost, Glenn Gazar-Guest, to take that one.
Thanks very much. My name is Glenn. I'm happy to help with that question. I'm the Vice Provost here. I do a lot of faculty recruitment and development, and the arts are very important to me and to my family. The Provost leadership team meets every 2 weeks with the Academic Council. Those are all the chairs and deans here, and we talk to them about their concerns and interests. We've done a number of things since I arrived here a year and a half ago to support the arts. We have, for example, in the Provost's office, we have a funding request form that chairs and deans submit proposals to. We've spent a significant amount of money remodeling several rooms in Brody to create facilities for museum studies, a craft lab for the theater, rehearsal space for music, and there's a lot more that we can do. So I'd like to offer myself up. I don't want to speak for the chairs of the arts departments on campus. I think they are certainly available to you if you want to go talk to them about what you're interested in. But I want to offer my office as well, 205 in Irwin. Come see me. I can set up some times when we can sit down with students and faculty and staff related to the arts and talk about what you might be interested in.
Okay, I just want to clarify that I'm in Brody every day and I'm very unaware of what has been renovated. And I understand that Brody is a huge building and I might be missing that, but I also speak daily with the head of our department and they have the same concerns. I mean, he's retiring in May and I'm concerned that once he leaves, we don't have a place to talk to anybody anymore. So I know that something can't be answered today, but I would love to talk to you more because this is a huge concern of mine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I've got a question up here that I'm going to get to next, and then.
Yeah, hi. My name is Jules Orca, and I'm a freshman here. And I love my fans. Anyway, so we were told that there was plans to renovate the library 2 years from now, and so I'm just curious why the students, especially the freshmen, were not informed about plans to renovate the library if the school knew that they were renovating the library initially 2 years from now, because that would still put my class at a disadvantage. So I'm just curious why that was withheld from us, and I'm also curious, I hope that information, the fact that the library will not be open until 2025, will be shared with students who are visiting the campus. Because if I was a prospective student and I was told that information, I would not want to come to Geneseo. As a freshman, I'm regretting coming. So beyond that, I have a request that all tour guides are going to be transparent with students and their families and tell them, no, I'm sorry, your library won't be open till 2025. I know that's unfortunate, but it's the truth, and we're done lying to you.
President Battles is going to start the response, and then Vice President Bueller will add.
Thank you for raising that question. And actually, I've heard that from some other first-year students about the library renovation timeline. For students who are new here, you probably are unaware that last year at this time, we did engage the campus community in some discussion. We call it program planning, but it's kind of high-level discussion about what a renovated Milne Library would be. So we engaged with our students, faculty, staff, other community members, gathered their feedback, and that went into sort of a conceptual discussion about the library. In terms of the timeline, the way that this works, and I've been here, this is my 5th year, people with longer tenure on the campus have told me this is not the way that renovation works is that we work in partnership with the state, and we don't have the funding to be able to move forward a project. We're really dependent on working with our partners in Albany to be able to get the funds to do that. So I'm told that in the past there have been, and the folks in the library can probably echo this, that there have been a number of times when there was an expectation that we'd be able to renovate the library, but because the funding wasn't there or other changed priorities, it didn't happen. So we've been working, and we got to the point with Albany where they said, you know what, let's look out a couple years, maybe we can do it this time. We engaged our campus community, a number of students, perhaps some in this room, gave their feedback on what a enhanced Milne Library would look like. But until we just made this announcement, until the state decided that they were in a position to provide the full $35 million, we were focused on our queue, and our queue meant that Sturgis was first. And hopefully you are all aware of our efforts to renovate Sturgis. So our expectation, until we knew that we had the asbestos challenge, was that we would work through Sturgis, that would be a phased process, and that Milne would be coming, but it was dependent on the funds. So we were looking optimistically at 2 years. We didn't have the funding, though, at that time to know it would be within 2 years. So we were never withholding information. I realized for first-year students, because you weren't here and didn't maybe have that opportunity last spring to engage in that discussion and ideation, that may have been unknown to you, but we did do that open process with our campus community. And so I think I'm gonna, did you have anything you wanted to add, or are we good?
I think we should just mention too that library services don't stop.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing I want to say is
just a couple things, and I do appreciate your comments. One is, if people are going on tour, how are they going to know we have a library project? We are going to put a fence around the library very, very soon. There will be a big white design that shows what the future library looks like. So if you are walking anywhere near there, you will see that, and I will ask to have a date added. I do want to speak for a little bit about library services, though, because we are seeking to provide library services. And I do understand, and I hope you understand too, that what we've set up right now is temporary. We originally thought we were going to have the library reopened quickly. Then we brought in some outside experts, and after listening to them, we went and we asked for the money from Albany to go ahead and do the bigger project. We did not get approval on that until right before we sent out that note. So I just want that to be cleared up on that. But we are doing everything we can to provide good quality library services in a component way. And what we've set in place today was part of our first wave, but we're going to bring designers in, and we're going to be looking at Fraser Library plus a lot of other spots across campus to offer a hybrid solution. And we want to hear from you about those services and how we can do that well.
So I see a lot of hands, and I'm trying to think in my head what is a way to organize some of these questions so that we can hear a few of them, but also if we took every question, we'd be here till 3 weeks from now, and I don't know that that's what we're looking for. So I'm trying to figure out what that balance is. I want to point out that there's someone in the room that if you want to ask direct library questions too afterwards, I want to just ask you to stand and wave.
Hi everyone. So I'm Elena New. Oh, you're going to give me the mic. Sorry, I was supposed to wait for the mic, wasn't I? So my name is Elena New. I'm the head of collection management. I work at Milne. So I oversee the print collection, the electronic collection. You're more than willing to ask me questions. There's other library people here as well in the back of the room. So we definitely want to hear from you. And I know I'm not supposed to talk that long. I'm going to just say one more thing. We don't plan our move to Fraser and our transition to Fraser to be the same as it's been in Sturgis. Sturgis was very much an emergency move. We had no planning just because of the situation. Our intention for Fraser is to have a true library experience. So we are looking for, we're starting to consider different ways to hear from students and from faculty to make sure that you have the services and the access to the collection that you need. This is something that we're thinking about, we care very much about. We're just at an awkward point because so much is still unknown. We're kind of just waiting to gather a little bit more information so we can make it the best step forward. So feel free to talk to me or any of my colleagues in the back in the library.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So keep your hand up if you have a question about the library. Okay. Is it a question about services? Keep your hand up if it's a question about services. Not very many. A few questions about services. If it's questions about specific services, I'm trying to sort of prioritize. Then I think following up with somebody from the library to find out exactly what kind of services that might be a good way. What other questions about the libraries? Are they about construction plans? Are they about timeline? Shout out a couple of keywords. Timeline and plans. All right. So I heard a few things. I heard that many people want an update about the timeline and plans, which is a facilities question regarding the library. And then I heard Twitter. And so I think I'm going to ask our Vice President Bueller to speak to the facilities and timeline part of the library project, and then we'll move to a Twitter question.
Thank you. So I want to speak to timeline a little bit and design a little bit. How this works is we have to get the money first, which we just got. And then we'll be able to do, we've done a pre-design that was part of what the president was speaking about, what was done last year, the inclusive process to see, approximately how much space do we need, what are some of the things that we want to put in the library. So we've done a little of that. But the next step we'll actually move into a planning and design stage, and we will want involvement from students in that stage. But until we get through that, I can't give you much more on the timeline, because we got to figure out what we're building, how are we building it. The best information I have right now is what went out in the email to say that it will be in the 24-25 school year. And then we'll get more narrow on that once we can get the design work done.
All right, there's a lot of questions. If you have additional questions about facilities, I know that wherever she went, she's continuing to field questions afterwards. I want to move to the Twitter topic because I promised you that I would. So what I'd love to ask is if I can hear from a couple Twitter questions, and then we'll collectively try to respond to those. So if you want to pick a couple hands for Twitter questions.
Thank you. I'm Jacob Reed, sophomore, Heaton. I was just hoping that someone from the administration could please explain to us what happened on their end, how we got to where we did, and moving on from this, how they plan on rebuilding a relationship of trust with a student body that frankly feels betrayed and left out right now.
Thank you. How about we hear a couple other Twitter-related comments, and then I'll ask you to respond in aggregate to those. I think there was another hand over there if you want to take, or a different hand. We can hear a couple Twitter-related questions or comments.
Hi. Twitter says that they didn't give you guys the password, which means you guys hacked into the account, is what it seems. So how are you going to fix? Are you guys going to start taking down meme pages about Geneseo? Because truly, that's the only thing that's keeping me from honestly not freaking out about this semester at all. Because I truly, as a second year, I truly want to leave this school and go to Fredonia, where it's offered that I get a free college pass when they have a library and everything else. But
we could definitely clarify some of those elements when we pass the mic to talk about Twitter. I see one other hand in the front, Bailey. If you want to take that one, and then I'll allow this comment to happen.
Hi. I'm Mary Robbins. I've been pretty active on Twitter these last few weeks, both through my personal account and through others' journalism-related endeavors. And I'm just curious about this school's branding and imaging issue. It seems that sometimes they care more about their image than the current students here. Why is it at the bottom of the Geneseo EDU page, why are prospective students labeled as consumer information? We're consumers to you? We're students, we're people. And this is just demonstrated through the Twitter use, through,
Tuition. Speak about tuition.
I mean, yeah, that could be another thing, like,
ask about it.
Should our tuition go down since we have no library?
Good job.
Yeah, it would take a long time to respond completely to the Twitter thing. Number one, to the question over there, we do not hack into students' emails, period. It would take a court order to do that. Yes, we have the capability, but only in an emergency situation where we get a court order to do that. We do not do that. That's a big piece of misinformation that's been out there. This account was created as an impersonation account. That's not me. That's Twitter who said it was an impersonation account. It was an impersonation account disguised as a parody account. We're not against parody. We love to laugh. But if you're going to do a parody, you do it without taking the images of this college to do so. There's a lot more to it than that, but whenever there's information up there that does pose a risk to the health and safety of even one person on this campus, it's going to get our attention and we're going to take action. To the image, yeah, we're concerned about our image. We're in a very competitive market right now with students, and so we want to make sure we have a good, solid, consistent image, and we're working hard to maintain that.
So, where's Bailey? I lost my phone. Oh, he's right in front of me. So I think realistically, I think we could take maybe, how many more do you think? Maybe 2 more questions? At some point we need to pivot towards the table, and I'm wondering, that works? Is it brief?
I just want to say one thing. You know, as people who work here in administration, we care very much about people. And I just want to say that. Every single day I come in and work with people who try and make your experience the best you can. And I know sometimes we miss the mark, but I want you to hear from me, administration cares about people.
All right. Hi. So I have a question about Sturgis. I actually have a few questions, but I'll hold it to the one. So I don't know who to direct this to, obviously, but so now that Milton's closed and Sturgis is going to be closed, what happens to the history department? Because I've heard a few things, and none of them are good. So I want to know classes could probably move to Wells, but where are the professors going to be? So, because I heard potentially history offices could be on Main Street. And if I was a freshman on South Side, I'm a senior now, and I would not be walking to 8 a.m. office hours on Main Street. I also heard they would be in the basement of Brody, and then I heard from somebody with Brody, hi. I heard there's no basement in Brody. So add that to the list of the jokes we've been told this semester. And then again with the tuition thing, I also agree when I paid my tuition 4 years ago, because now I am a senior and I feel like I'm escaping rather than graduating. No offense. But I'm a history major. I have to write a senior seminar. Where am I getting books from? So I'm going to ask our provost to respond to some of those questions.
Well, I can try to respond. I'll do my best. My name is Stacy Robertson. I'm the provost. I'm also a historian, by the way. So I have to say I feel the history department in my heart. And I actually went and met with them. I met with them once recently. I met with Justin Barron, the chair of the history department as well. And I told them what I will tell you. I will work
relentlessly to find them a space on campus that works for them. And I promised them that they would have a part in that decision making, and I meant it. And they're a huge priority for academic affairs, and I know they're a tremendous priority for Julie Bueller also. And it's certainly, a priority. We're also, I think, recognizing, and the history department recognizes that they use the library perhaps more than anybody else, and so they understand that we need a great space for the library, the special collections in the library, we need that. Again, I'm a historian, I get it, and we're gonna do our best to make sure that we get everything out of the library that we can. So thank you so much for the question, and I feel you.
Hi, everybody. I don't mean this as a target to you specifically, Vice Principal, or the administration, but as somebody, it's a very bold statement to say that you care about the health and well-being of students when we do not have adequate mental health resources. As somebody who utilizes Waterville, we have lost 2 licensed clinicians. When is that going to be replaced? Where are our resources? Students are suffering majorly from anxiety and depression. It skyrockets from your 18s into your late 20s, men specifically, and not enough people recognize how prominent suicide is in young men, in women, in stressed out college students, especially in situations like this where we're lacking resources from a library, from clean water and power. Where's the mental health resources? We need those.
So I'm going to direct your question to Principal Administrator, I believe, of, you can share your own title. I don't know what your title is.
Hi all, my name is Megan. I'm the Principal Administrator at the Student Health and Counseling Department. I've been really taking time to try and meet students. I've been here for 9 months. So I'm actually taking this time to learn and understand more about what's going on in this culture, as well as the culture outside of here, which you're speaking to, of the increase in mental health and well-being issues across the country and in other colleges. So what I've been trying to do is really take this time to navigate through students' comments, through my department and what has worked and what hasn't worked, as well as looking at national data. So part of what it is that we are seeing about 16% of youth on campus. That's a lot. So, but we want to make sure that we are seeing those students that are coming in. So while we're in a period of transition, which I know isn't always the greatest thing to hear, it's so that we can make sure we're providing you what you need. Some of those changes that we've made is we've identified that the triage and crisis appointments needed to turn into some walk-ins. So what we did was we identified certain times of the day where there's at least 1 or 2 of those available. So if somebody's not able to make an appointment and they don't want to wait because those appointments will get pushed out, just as they would somewhere outside of here, you have the ability to walk in, call our office and find out what those times are, and you can come in and be seen. We've also, which I know is something I've heard about, our transition into how our services are going to be provided in terms of sessions. So we've been doing research on campus as well as throughout the country at other colleges on how they're approaching this situation. So what we've done is have a basic framework that is solution focused in nature to help students when they come in identify what the solution needs to be and how they're going to get to that. Now we know that not every student might need that type of therapy. But to have a basic framework so that every student can at least be seen, we will then take that information after you have these sessions and identify if you need more than that, if you need off-campus counseling, because we cannot provide weekly sessions, unfortunately. And we also have workshops that we've included. So we have 9 RIO workshops. They're 3 weeks in nature. Every week you go. We also have a calm workshop, which is for advanced meditation. And we are starting to look at other workshops and groups that we are going to include, but it's a transition process. We are also in the process of hiring for our 2 positions that are open. We have someone coming in temporary, and then we also have started the search for the other. So let people know who you know out there if they want to come and be on our team. We're looking. And we, again, are doing the best right now in this transition as we figure out what is going to best serve you and provide a better understanding of well-being on campus. That includes faculty and staff. So I'm planning on, I've already spoke with students. I chair the Student Health Advisory Committee. I hear from them, and I am more than willing to hear any of your concerns or questions and take those to my department so we can figure out the best way to achieve those questions and concerns.
So if any of you have questions, ideas, concerns, you can follow up with Megan directly and have those be heard. I want to ask you a question, if that's all right. I know that we had suggested that we'd move towards table dialogue at some point so that we could hear from you. I want to ask the question, and just by a show of hands, indicate, yes, you want to be able to provide us with that feedback, and so we should transition to table dialogues. Or, and the second option will be, you want the opportunity to ask a few more questions in this big group format. And if that's the case, or regardless, let's stick around another 15 minutes or so to hear either dialogue or questions. Raise your hand if you want to do table dialogues. That's what we thought. Raise your hand if you want to ask a few more questions. Okay. So then we're offering to stick around another 15 minutes or so we can hear at least a few more questions. And Bailey's going to figure out who those are.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elijah Hall. As a second semester senior, I'm glad to say I've enjoyed every moment of my tenure here at Geneseo. As we know, spring 2020 has brought circumstances uncharacteristic of any university, and the community is equally upset. I thought about how, when I leave my last semester of college, how I'll maybe look back at it with a sour taste in my mouth. And these past 3 years, being a part of this community has been everything but sour. I want to come back in 10 years and see Geneseo better than it was when I left it. My question for any administrator is, what is your #1 priority to maintain and rebuild a reputation that attracts and keeps incoming freshmen in the long run?
Thanks for that question. Elijah? Is that okay? I guess what I would say to you is the same qualities that you're referencing are what brought me and my colleagues here. We're here because we believe in Geneseo. This is a fantastic community. Every one of us work and we believe in what we do. This is a special community. We're here for you. And I know sometimes it can be frustrating and we have power outages and we have milm, and I get it. I'm incredibly frustrated too, and we want to do well by you. But what you've got is a group of folks who care passionately about this institution. We've been around for almost 150 years. We too want this institution to be continuously better. I know for those who 2 months ago, like I did, thought we would have our library services based in Milne, that it feels like, unsettling and distressing. Part of the reason we decided to move forward with that, beyond the obvious of health and safety, which is always our priority, is because as difficult as it will be to be down and out of Milne for this period of time, What we want to do is what you said. We want to grow and build on the gem that is Geneseo. And please know, and I will tell you, I believe this in my heart. We are all working for that. Sometimes we don't do it well. Sometimes we don't execute well. Sometimes we're slow to communicate. But please know, sincerely, we're all working as hard as we can to make this place better. And I will say, there are a number of things. We've heard a lot about the library. Please know that because we do know where we are now in terms of our time horizon with Milne, we'll be able to work, as you heard from my colleague Alana, we had to put together something pretty quickly when we thought we were dealing with asbestos remediation. We'd be back in a few months. Now we have the benefit of knowing it's going to be a several-year lead time, and we can be more planful and engage our greater community so that we can come up with a solution. You will have access to the library resources and support. It will be, and it will look different than we thought it was going to be several months ago, but you will have that. We're committed to making sure that's the case. But part of what drew me here was that this institution has fantastically talented, incredibly vibrant, active, and I'm thrilled that you're all here. I really, truly am. Students. We have fantastic students who go on to be incredible alums, some of whom have felt so passionately about their institution, they've come back and joined our leadership team. I want that to continue, and I mean that sincerely. The faculty and staff who are so dedicated and talented that are here, the excellent programs that I presume drew you all here, those are the core of Geneseo. Our values are the core of Geneseo. That is what we pledge to preserve. And so while we experience these rough patches, and I don't know what the next one will be. I hope it won't be there, but I know it'll be there. You know, you look at our sister institution, many of you know New Paltz. New Paltz is going through a challenge right now. There are other institutions that are going through some challenges right now. We can't predict all those, but know that we're committed to making this school the best it can be. And that's my pledge to you. And I do hope you come back and see, and that is my goal, an ever-improving institution, because that is what I want in my heart of hearts. So thank you for that question.
Hello. So I have actually a couple things. First off, I want to echo what a bunch of people have said already about the communication. I think that probably the most important thing at this point is the honesty in the communication, especially considering the Milne email. I don't know how the phrasing should have been different, but I know that myself, people I've talked to, my friends, none of us really appreciated that the email was framed that we were supposed to be really excited that the library was going to open 2 years after the freshman class was graduated. I also want to, again, kind of echo Jules' question about is the tour guides going to be telling the incoming freshmen about the library closure and that it won't be open until after they graduate, because as a freshman, I would not have come to this school had I known this was going to be a situation. But then my most important question is why, as a school that is, you know, everyone knows that we boast this high academic standard. So with a $35 million budget, why are we not just building a second library?
Thank you for those questions. You want to lay your questions? Is it related?
I just wanted to ask about what's going to happen with our tuition. This is a great university. I love being here. I'm overjoyed that I'm able to be here, but I would like to stay here. And I know that if our tuition goes up, it will be out of the reach of many families to afford going to this school. So I need to ask about tuition.
Thank you for those questions. I'm going to pass the mic this way.
I'm going to need some help with all the questions, so I want to make sure I get it right. I want to go back on the tours. We are trying to get, one of the first things done is to get a fence around the library with a what? I'm sorry? that is our intention to tell them that. It is also our intention to actually tour the campus, and we will have we're working with a vendor right now. We are going to have the construction actually on the outer of the fence to talk about what's coming soon and the dates that it is coming. That is our intention. I don't run the tour programs, but I will talk to admissions, and we want to be upfront about that. That should not be anything that we're not sharing. Again, though, I don't want to say that we're not going to have library services. We are going to have library services. So I just want to emphasize that, because I think there's a program question in there as well. Oh, tuition. So the money that we received, and there was also a question of why doesn't $35 million build a new library? It actually doesn't, and it's actually not enough to build a new library. It's actually more expensive to build a new library than that, so that's the answer to that. As far as tuition, would tuition go up with everything that happened? Is that what you're asking, or you're asking tuition in general?
I just want to know about your general intentions for tuition, and if you're going to take into account the fact that we're lacking a known library for education majors. We're lacking the space to participate in student teaching. I want to know if our tuition is going to reflect that and go down because of all the problems we've been facing, or if it's going to stay the same. And if it goes up, what are you going to do to justify that? And how are people going to remain at the school?
Okay. I can answer some of that.
Can you repeat some of the question too, since it wasn't mine?
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat some
Okay.
of the question?
Actually, can you come up here and repeat the question? It was multi-pronged.
Hi, I have a few questions. One is if the tuition is going to be lowered to reflect the limited services we now have. For example, with education majors, we're losing their space in downstairs mill to participate in student teaching. And I also wanted to know if the tuition is going to go up, because I've heard rumors about it, but obviously it would be better to address you directly so we can know the truth. And if so, how is that going to be justified? And also, I just want to say that we go to SUNY schools because to go to a SUNY is to go to a school that doesn't cost an extreme amount of money. It's a school where people are able to get a higher education without throwing away their entire life savings. And I want to know how families are going to be able to afford to go to this school anymore if the tuition goes up and we're not even offering the same quality of education that we were offering beforehand.
I'm going to try and answer some of that. I'm not sure I can answer all of that, but let me start by talking about right now there's some assumptions about what space is going to go away, and there's an assumption that that space isn't going to be replaced. What I want to talk to you about is where we are right now. We put up temporary locations, but that is not where we are stopping as far as what services are going to be and what facilities are going to be available to you. We are now going in, we got the money in, now we have brought an external designer to come in. One of the first things they're going to do is work with us on what they call Surge. The Surge is how do we provide services to you, the programs to you, in the interim period before the new library comes up. So the type of program that you just mentioned, where we need student teacher space, that will have to go on the list, and we'll be working with Stacy and others to look at the academic programs, what do they need, and how do we achieve them. So don't assume that what we have today in this moment is going to be what we're going to offer you. What we have right now is the first wave of offering, and then we need to work with you to say, where is it missing the mark? So for example, right now people have told me I need more quiet space, I need more food. We have people out there right now looking to get more quiet spaces and more food. There's also academic program needs, and we're working with the library staff as well to supplement them. So I want to say that. As it relates to tuition, couple things. The money related to this library came from the state. It came from special funds, so the money for the library will not impact tuition, okay? So those costs, a couple of people have asked me, are these costs? There seems to be a lot of spending on some of these things to get the building up in place. That is not out of the same fund tuition comes in. As far as increases in tuition in general, tuition is contracted, and that comes out of SUNY. We work with SUNY on that. We're certainly providing feedback to SUNY that we're hearing from all of you. We will provide feedback after this. That said, I think our main goal right now is to provide service, and that's what our main focus is. We're still pretty new into the situation. So I think we want to hear from our students and we want to take feedback back, but that's where we're at right now. It's still a pretty new situation.
Knowing that some of the questions have been about library services, I did ask Alana to share a couple thoughts on that. What should they do?
So hi, I'm Elena. So we're still really, we don't know a lot about what's going to happen when we move into Fraser Hall, but our intention is to keep all of the services and all the collections that you had in Mill. Our intention is to maintain those same services and those same collections in Fraser. It's just going to be a different building. So we're trying to think about ways to make sure there's enough quiet study, group study, how we're going to make plans for the collection, the main collections and special collections, making sure that we have research help available, and all the things that you're really familiar with. There's a lot we don't know yet, so it's hard for me to say anything really definitive, other than that is very much our goal and our intention. And we are really going to be looking to seek feedback from students so that way we want to do this right? We only have one chance to move into Fraser, so we want to make sure we do it correctly. Our intention is to either move collections out of the library building or purchase new copies of what's already there, so that way you have access to the collections that you desperately need. We've heard a lot from students in the School of Education, students in history, and other departments and schools as well who need access to resources, and we hear you and we understand that. It's just, there's been a lot happening, there's been a lot of change, so it's been very difficult to plan accordingly. So I'm kind of here to reassure you that the library in Fraser is going to be as best as we can make it, as close to what we had in Mill. This is not the first, other campuses, other colleges have had library renovations, and this is not the first. It's a little bit more, it hasn't gone about the same way, but other libraries have done this. It will be okay. I'm not going to be able to stay too late this evening, so if you want to email me, you're welcome to do that. So my first name is Elena, and my last name is Nuth. I'm the only one in the directory with that name. So it's NUTH@geneseo.edu. You're welcome to email me, and if I don't know the answer, I can always refer you to somebody who does. Because my specialty is more in collections, and I have colleagues who do, the other services that you're more familiar with as well. Okay? Okay.
We have time for one more question, and then I'm going to give you some insight about how to continue asking questions beyond this event. One last question.
Hi, so I'm speaking on behalf of the Geneseo College Republicans and Democrats who got together to form the Geneseo Action Coalition. Some of you may have already seen that we distributed a form on the SUNY Geneseo Instagram memes page in order to hear what you're saying, because we don't want our opinions to be just based on our own anecdotal experience. So that is sort of what some of you may already be familiar with. But our sort of question is, we think it's very telling that at the beginning of the evening tonight, when President Battles announced the things that she was going to talk about, from Milne Library to the power outages, transparency was not one of those issues, and yet transparency has been consistently one of the things that was brought up tonight, and consistently one of the things that has been brought up in our forum, which as of right now has been live for 2 days and is 250 responses, so please go and fill it out yourselves. We would love to hear what you have to say. I guess my question is, I can turn on CNN and in 10 minutes know what my Congress is thinking about doing, 350 miles away. But I have to take time out of my schedule to go to an SA meeting or to go to a fireside chat, which I respect you so much for doing, President Battles, but I have to go to one of those and hear administrators lie. And I am talking about a specific lie. I'm so sorry to say this, President Battles, but I'm talking about a specific lie. I'm happy to, do you want to know what it is? I don't want to. I don't want to dredge up bad blood, But the day before the Lamron released the article about the student-professor relationship, you were asked by a student if you were aware of any relationships between professors and students that had come to your attention, and you said no. You did not say there are some, but I'm not telling for the privacy of the student or the professor involved, which you could have said, and everyone would have understood. You did not say I'm not at liberty to share that information. You said that has never come to my attention, and the next day you were quoted in the article in the Lamron saying it had come to your attention. I respect you a lot. You do not have an easy job. You are the face of an administration where a lot goes wrong, and I'm so sorry for that. But you, as the face of the administration, you set the tone. And right now, the tone is not good. Students are angry, and there are talks of protests, honestly. And with this tone in mind, I want to know, how can you show us, without using sort of superficial things, that what we say here today will actually be effective? What is your first step for transparency? And I have so many things that people around me, both people I know and people I don't, have brought up, say this, say this, say this. And I can't get to it all. But what is your first step other than just throwing everything we say today in a to get to later pile?
For sure.
Well, thank you for your comments, and I appreciate what you're doing to engage our campus. I would love to talk to you, and you're welcome to come to me in my office to talk. I will tell you that I don't lie. I'm happy to talk about, I don't, I'm not a liar. You know, you can tell me I screw up, sometimes I do screw up, I'm human, all that. I would love to talk to you more because I'm not recognizing what you, I would love to talk to you more about that because I know I would never, ever lie. There have been times I've been asked things where I did have more information, couldn't share it. You can see any number of quotes in the Lamron, I'll say, I understand people want to know about this. It's not something I can talk about. I'm very comfortable saying that, but what I don't do is to lie. So if there's something that you perceived as me saying one thing and backing off on it, I would love to talk to you. I've talked with other students when they've had concerns, and oftentimes it's a matter of miscommunication, but I will promise you, I would never knowingly put out something that was false. I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it because your integrity is everything. Once it's gone, it's gone. And that's something that I prize. And I don't want anybody in here thinking that I would purposefully lie. It's not planned. So in terms of your broader question, what about transparency? Part of the reason that we're here, frankly, we came into this knowing that this wouldn't be an easy conversation. I am happy to have the not easy conversations. I have a regular time when I go into the dining hall and have president, eat dinner with the president. One of those was scheduled last night, and I was asked, would you rather cancel or change this? And I'm like, no. People want to come up to me, and they did. I heard very different things last night from folks. Some critical, which I expected. Some incredibly affirming, which I didn't expect and I really, really appreciated. But please know we're all working as hard as we can, but I promise you, I would never deliberately lie. I would like to talk to you more about your perception because I just wouldn't do that. That's not who I am. And that's all I can say to you, but I pledge to you, I'm not a liar. So, transparency is one of the questions we've asked, and if you can look at those colored sheets on your paper, and I think Robbie will speak to this, but we really would like to get your feedback on this. If you have time to write out answers, we'd be very happy for you to do that. Otherwise, I think we can send out an email, just as we did soliciting the topics that you were interested in tonight, to respond to that. But we're very serious about wanting to know what are the best communication mechanisms, especially when we're in an emergency situation and we have to triage and get information out really quickly. But the other is, and we've already talked about this, Adam brought it up, and we've already eyeballed the date, and I'm interested in getting your feedback. is doing this kind of thing on a regular basis of interest. I've told Adam I'm happy to, but it's really up to you. And I will tell you, sometimes we put these opportunities out there and we don't get participation. I'd rather have participation, I'd rather have the benefit of everybody's feedback than to have crickets. So I'm happy to do it. And I know my colleagues are happy to make ourselves available because we do want good, solid communication with our students. You're what we're here for. I mean, without you, what's a college about? So thank you for asking the question. Happy to meet with you individually.
So at this point, we're not able to take any more questions in this format. I want to offer that several of the administrators and staff in the room are going to be able to stick around. Not everybody will, but if you can, please do. That way, if students want to ask questions individually, they have that opportunity. If you wrote questions on index cards that haven't been asked, feel free to leave them at the tables. We'll try to glean from them, see if there are themes, and certainly, to the best that we can, try to answer at least some of the ones that are coming up a lot. We'll try to make sure that information is available. There were questions about transparency. I want to comment on that last one. And I think this evening, based on the questions, the critical questions that you were asking, I commend you for it. And the really honest responses that I heard from my colleagues, we're taking a step in that direction, and I appreciate it. Can I ask a show of hands who would want to do this again? Okay, that's the answer. So you can look forward to another opportunity. Thank you to everybody who engaged. Continue to have follow-up conversations as needed. Have a good night.